All right. Happy Thursday, everyone out there in Phish podcast media land. My name is Brian Brinkman. I am very, very excited to be hanging out here. My friends Jonathan, Megan, and RJ, who's somewhere. I don't know exactly where he is, but he'll be here soon. He should be here soon. We're doing this live, though, right? Is that what's happening right now?
Yeah, I think so. What day is this?
Today is Thursday, December 9th.
Okay, yeah, I have that too. So it must be live.
It must be live. We are deep in December, which we talked exactly 1 week ago about December Phish. And, it's funny when we were prepping for that episode, I would, take screenshots of the jams I was listening to and I would send them to you guys, or I would send them to a couple other friends that I have who are also, we just send jam recommendations. And one of my friends got very, very concerned because he was like, "You are getting so far ahead in the year, in the month. What is going on?" I had to explain, well, I'm prepping for a podcast. This is what happens. But we are deep in the month of December. There are some great jams that occurred on this date in December Phish history. The Simple from Penn State, the Tweezer from 12/9/94. Hey, RJ. And
I was there in 97. I just want to say that. Hello, everybody.
Oh, you were there. What was that like going to your rival's school to see a 30-minute Simple?
Well, let me tell you just quickly, because I'm glad you asked. I drove from Columbus with my friend and two friends, and we drove through like the back roads of Pennsylvania in a snowstorm to get from Columbus to State College. And it was crazy because we didn't think we were going to make it, and we thought we might crash and stuff. And we walked in, and it was the middle of Mike's song, which was apparently the opener. And we were like, this is outrageous. So it was so fun. We stayed there that night. It was like a nice snowstorm, and it was really fun. And it's my only trip to State College.
Probably a good thing. I don't want to ruffle Matt Dwyer's feathers, but probably a good thing.
Yeah,
or Nick's.
Or Nick's.
We have a lot of team members from that went to Penn State. Anyway, hey guys, sorry I'm late.
There was another Blizzard show that happened on 12/9/95. There was a good jam that was played that date. I don't recall exactly. It's kind of a minor Phish song.
It's not important.
It's a silent jam. But we are not here to talk Decembers. We are here to talk about December 9th is a good date in Phish history. December 7th is a good date in Phish history. December 11th is a good date in Phish history. But there's one date that rules them all.
Does it though?
No,
RJ is not convinced.
I'm gonna spend the entire hour making the argument that this is the greatest date in Phish history. What say all of you, generally speaking, before we jump in?
I'm totally gonna have your back. Even just listening to these shows got me so excited for MSG and just made me realize how unbelievable this date is for so many reasons.
We've gone from being in opposition to each other about classic rock and about 95 versus 97 to now you have my back. I love it.
We're together on this one.
It ain't no 12/1 is what I'm here to say, but there's some good shows on 12/30. So, and I look forward to telling you which ones are good and which ones are bad.
and to be fair, the 12/30 in the poll that we did won in a landslide. So against 12/29. And Jonathan, we talked a lot about 12/29/94 the other day. So
I sorry I missed it. I had to, burn all my notes so nobody would, nothing would leak out.
I understand.
I'm going to give you a platform to speak quickly about one of your favorite jams that you witnessed. But before we do that, we have to tell you a bit about our presenting sponsors here before we get into the meat of today's episode. I want to tell you all about Shift Genuine Cannabis. HFPod on tour. We've been back now for like 2 weeks. This is like a regular thing that we do with our weeks. This is super fun. Do you know what goes great with HFPod on tour? Cannabis. You ever done an HFPod show on weed? HFPod on tour is proudly presented by Shift Genuine Cannabis, which is based and sold in sunny Colorado. Sunny and warm Colorado. It's a little chilly right now, but it's pretty warm. It's amazing. Back in July, the Osiris team had a chance to visit the Shift Ranch outside of Telluride, Colorado. Just a beautiful, beautiful part of the country. And we toured their grow. It was an amazing experience in so many ways. RJ talked for 5.5 hours to a scientist, while Jonathan and I toured the facilities. It was incredible. We got to see the care and attention to detail that Shift puts into growing their flower. The facility was beautifully high tech with every detail in place. As I noted, we got to meet their on-site scientists to hear all about how tissue culture and advanced propagation techniques play a huge role in plant health and quality, and saw firsthand the billions of data points on growing and environmental conditions they collect and analyze to make sure that the bud that you get is consistent, pure, and of the highest quality. And it is the highest quality. Shift sells flower, pre-rolls, cartridges, and concentrates. Please visit shiftcannabis.com to learn more. Megan, who else are we presented by?
So we are also sponsored by Section 119. And if you haven't looked at their website, you really should, because they don't make just your usual sweatshirts and t-shirts. They also make really nice things. They have this like beautiful Grateful Dead scarf right now. They just have really gorgeous stuff and really high quality. I think Brian is modeling actually something from Section 119 today. This donut hoodie that he wears often. Look at that. I mean, beautiful. Looks so good on you, Brian. And
It's like wearing a hug.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I don't have one. I'm just putting that out there. I don't have one of these donut hoodies. So if anybody is so inclined, please feel free to pass along. Section 119 was started by a couple of huge fans who wanted more than just a t-shirt to kind of show their appreciation for our favorite bands. And it's turned into this huge line of unique apparel for Phish and Dead fans. And right now they're running their biggest promo ever. You can score up to 30% off for the holidays. So you can visit section119.com to check them out, find cool gifts for your wife, your sister, your husband, your brother, your dad, whatever. Or you can buy something for yourself if you want, because you deserve it. So that's section119.com. And on your way out, please let them know that we sent you at HFPod, and you can just take the post-purchase survey on your order confirmation page.
I just want to say the only thing that almost was as fascinating as the science stuff and all the fascinating data things they're collecting at Shift was the discovery that Brian Brinkman is an amazing karaoke singer.
It's true.
What?
It's true. We
Oh,
did
yeah.
a
What?
Midwestern duet.
What did you
pretty
sing?
We were working on our night moves.
Oh my
His
gosh,
Bob
this is
Seger was
incredible.
amazing. It was
Yeah.
it was outstanding.
Incredible.
If everyone out there sticks around until our January shows, we may be doing a live karaoke contest. We'll see.
I'm kind of busy
Yes.
in January. Sorry.
While we're talking about companies we like, they're not an official sponsor, but I'm using this Passion House coffee mug, and I just want to say that Passion House they're so great. I order coffee from them often. They ship everywhere. They're started by an awesome Phish fan, and they're a great company. And if you're looking for coffee gifts for people, Passion House would be a good idea. That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I want to second that. Their coffee is great. I order it periodically and really enjoy it.
It's great stuff. So, today we are talking about a very special day. Perhaps the most special day, my favorite day, December 30th. But I said this a couple minutes ago, and I want to give my co-host, Jonathan, a platform here to talk about a jam that he witnessed from, I believe, behind the stage that came one day earlier that we talked a bit about, but I want to just give you 120 seconds and not a second longer to tell us about your experience at 12/29/94 witnessing the David Bowie.
The parking decks were cold that day, my friend. No, it was wicked cold. We had seen the 28th, and we drove up post show from Philly, and the car quit on us somewhere in the middle of God knows where, and got out, kicked it really hard in the back left quarter, and then got in, started up again, and drove the rest of the way to the hotel. And we got to the show kind of early, and for no good reason. There's no lots to speak of. It's just parking decks, but the decks were crawling with heads, and It was, I think I mentioned that it was cold, and we got inside and had ourselves a hell of a show. First set, things happened, stuff went down. Um, but you want to hear about the Bowie, and yeah, I was seated behind the stage. This was my third show. Let me just get that right there in the middle.
Jeez.
Third show, and I was seated low behind Fishman, and I have ever since been a big fan of sitting behind the stage. I mean, I don't know. You've heard it. I'm not going to run down all the music, but I can tell you that I was pretty much sober. I was the driver for that whole excursion, and my friends were not so much, and they were losing it. I was kind of losing it. It was crazy, just absolutely crazy music. It was just wild to see this performed, wild to see this happen, and they knew it. They finished that and took a bow in the middle of the set. They knew they had just done a thing, and my God, they really had. I guess if they had been going for 3 CDs for the live one release, it would have made it. I'd like to think that at least. And yeah, it was cool. Yeah, that's all I got, man. I don't know. Someday
all
I'll
you
write
need to
something
get.
useful about it.
No, I love it. And the scene setting is great, but thank you. And I wish you had been here for our 1229 conversation, but I know you had important business to attend to, and we are here. The important thing is that you are here for the most important Phish date of the year, which I will just continue to reemphasize, which is December 30th, which I keep saying. And fan listener out there, Holt Nichols reminded us that 12/30/98 was their first MSG show and only third show as well. A very, very good show, and a show that has the vibe of a 12:30 show, which we're going to get into. But before we do that, we need to answer a question. What does December 30th mean to all of you out here? RJB, I'm going to start with you. What does December 30th mean to you in the context of a New Year's run? What does that date signify for you?
I'm starting to buy into your theory, Brian, and your narrative about
It's
Phish.
working then. Good.
So yeah, it's working. I think this is like at least through the music, more recently and in the past, like this is a exploratory night a lot of times, most of the time, I think. And I feel like I don't know if this is true, but my speculation would be that maybe they get the New Year's kind of gag stuff under control by the 30th. They're comfortable in the venue. They're playing together well, and everything is kind of working. And then this ends up being a little bit of like a let off steam and just kind of go out and play night before the main event on the 31st. And going back as far as the early 90s, like every 12:30 show, I would say every 12:30 show really delivers. Although I think most 12:29 shows deliver too, but there are just some monstrous moments on 12:30 that we'll talk about that I think lends credence to the theory that there's something about this night before night that is special.
Yeah, I think that sense of the New Year's, like all the logistics being under control, and they can just kind of go out and play a show. We talked about that like, 12/29 is kind of the only Phish show of the run, if you will. Where like 12/28 it feels like a tour opener in a lot of senses. 12:30 has so much historical lore. The beauty of 12/29 is that they can kind of just come out and play a show. But you wonder, like, are they still prepping at that point in time for New Year's? Whereas 12:30, they've had 2 nights in the room, as we now see them play single night runs for New Year's Eve, and they kind of come out and just like feel comfortable. Megan, before I go to you, I just want to say a note to the audience. If any of you have thoughts about 12:30s, your favorite 12:30s, your favorite 12:30 jams, big memories, what the vibe of a 12:30 show means to you, please go ahead and share your comments. I'll shout out really quickly Jackson Richards. 3 nights into a run, everyone is comfortable and settled in at MSG. Everyone's excited for New Year's Eve, and we almost forget that we're about to get our minds blown tonight. Kind of says it all for me. Megan, what does it say to you?
Yeah, he said that so well. Thanks, Jackson. You took the words out of my mouth. No, I think that, they've just they've probably pretty rehearsed for the next night. And I think that they're feeling like probably pretty set for the 31st. And I would think that the 31st is probably a fairly scripted show. I don't, maybe some of the sets are not as scripted, but I would think as you get on towards the gag, the set is probably more scripted. So this seems like a night when they're really able to do some amazing things, some incredible bust outs, debut a song, do like a huge jam, really, like you were saying, RJ, just like explore. And I mean, it's the night before the night. I think you have those huge kind of anticipation feels on New Year's or on Halloween or on some of these big events. And I know we're going to talk a lot about Big Cypress, but like the fact that they could deliver a show like they do the night before New Year's Eve in 99 is just amazing because they can still just go out and deliver. And I think that is because they have that sense of like, tomorrow's the event, tonight we just get to play.
I love that. Yeah. The night before the night, like just that sentence, like says it all to me. What do you say, Jem?
1228, 1229, they can take a toll, right? You come in hot, 28, you're ready, throw down. 29, oh my God, they've raised the bar. Again, you throw down, you have a great time. 12:30, you come in like, oh man, we're gonna do 4 of these, and so I think 12:30 is a night where some people maybe take it easy. I'm talking about the audience here. The band, on the other hand, just like you guys are saying, they're warmed up, they're relaxed, they know what like 3 or 4 songs make up the gag, things that they're definitely going to do tomorrow night. So now let's just, all right, so we can do everything else. And they throw down. We get big jams, we get unlikely songs, we get, whatever. And just about anything's on the table, except for, as I say, like the 3 or 4, the core of the gag, I think. And usually you walk out at 12:30 like, man, I don't know what I would have done if I had been drinking too much tonight. I don't know if they got have made it, or what have you. And then you sleep until 1 p.m. on 12/31 and you go and do it again.
One thing that's always interesting about this date is there's usually one of the big core jam vehicles reserved for the second set of the, like a tweezer, the Down with Disease. In 1997, there was the AC/DC bag, which has had some great jams throughout that period. In 93, you get Mike's Song, which had been so prolific throughout 1993. But the other thing you get that I tend not to associate with 1229 as much are bust outs. And I think specifically of 1997's Sneak and Sally Through the Alley to open that show. I think about 2003, that first set had a ton of rarities for the year, a lot of songs that were played for the first time. 2009's first set was almost entirely a bust out, and then followed the second set had a 17-minute Get Back on the Train. So there's that like shared vibe of these are the big Phish songs that are being played in big moments. Your second set opener, Tweezer, your second set opener, Down with Disease, combined with here's a bunch of really special one-timers that we're going to throw out for you. And you combine kind of these two elements of a Phish show that so many people chase. The bust outs, the rarities, combined with our favorite collective songs that are going to be jammed, be it intentionally or not. That's the feeling that you get walking away from that. I don't know. It's just special, man. I feel like when we were going through these, every one of us was sharing, like 2018 has these great moments. 1997 is, and every time I saw like pictures of what you guys were all playing, it just like made me that much more excited because it's just a date that has so many signature highlights. I'm curious, we've talked a lot about intentionality. Do any of you guys think at this point, we've seen now looking back 5 or 6 years, the band has played so many high quality shows on 1230. Do any of you guys think that there is a sense of intentionality they're walking out on stage at that point like that, or do you think that it's just kind of chance and the vibe in the air?
I think there's definitely intentionality. I mean, I think of, 2018 when they played Bliss for the first time. I mean, that had to be planned out. Trey picks up his acoustic guitar. Things are special. Like that's definitely something they thought about doing. I would think that a night that they feel like they've done so well in the past or that's clicked for them, maybe it is just magic, but it seems like it clicks for them more often when I feel like for some reason, these nights that become kind of special in Phish history continue to be special. I mean, it's pretty incredible, these shows, listening to them back to back. There just seems some sort of intentionality to it.
Was it RJ who said that, they're settled into the venue? This is the particularly in the more modern era after the early 90s where they weren't actually traveling point to point during the run. They are comfortable, right? So they're, nowadays Trey's sleeping at home when they play Madison Square Garden, right? And so they're none of the travel, none of the jitter, none of that stuff. It's just they're playing comfortably, and they're whatever level that the year has led them to, they're playing kind of at that level. So I think that they're just ready to deliver.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jackson says it's 100% magic.
Total magic. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I also think over time they paid more attention to what they're doing on stage. Like I think they think about it more now than they used to, right? So if you go back to like the 97 show we were talking about, that feels to me like that was just like magic.
Things were just happening.
It was just happening, like no matter what.
Yeah.
Whereas now it feels a little bit more planned out, and I think they spend a lot more time planning out the set lists and figuring out what they're going to play than they used to. But yeah, I think there's something about being set up for a party and then being able to just hang out. I mean, like most weddings I've been to, I have more fun the night before the wedding than the night of the wedding, because like everyone's there and the wedding's like planned and it's going to happen, but like everyone's just kind of hanging out and not a lot of expectation. So I don't know. That's what I like. That's what I compare it to.
Yeah, there's no like stuffy outfits and photo staging, right? Like the New Year's are a big event. There's like a lot to it that takes away from kind of the music or the wedding, right? Where the night before you're just getting to hang with your friends and throw down at like a sick Phish show. And I think that adds a lot to it.
I also think the expectations, I talk about that a lot on here, right? So try as you might to walk in without expectations. On New Year's Eve, you've got them. There's going to be a big thing.
Sure.
They're going to do a 3 sets. It's going to be this, that, and the other. You walk in, what do they have? They rigged up here. What's hanging from above the stage? And look at all the balloons and the thing. And it's none of that the night before. They have it in their minds somewhere in the back of their minds, but they also know they don't have to worry about that tonight. So they can, go out there and just play and bring out George Clinton or, whatever just seems to be going on in town at the time, whatever comes up, they're ready to roll with it. And, so it's a pretty good night of the month. I mean, maybe not the best, but,
We're going to convince them, Brian, by the end of the show.
Well, I'm looking, RJ did such great deep research ahead of the 1229 show and throughout the Ardmore Hall's 1229, first ever 1229 performance. And I'm looking up 1230 of that year, 1989 was played at the Wetlands, which just like think about it in your mind. Like they play the Wetlands on December 30th, 1989. 5 years later, they will play MSG. Like when I think about that 5-year period that like led to them, Trey fist pumping MSG when he's opening up with Wilson, and like people are just raining Wilson cheers down on him. Just 5 years earlier, they're playing at the Wetlands, which is a huge accomplishment at the time for them. But while it's an incomplete set list, you get the encore. Kind of says it all to me. It's the first ever performance of Auld Lang Syne. It's also their first New Year's related run. That then goes into a complete traditional Mike's Groove. That's the encore. Like that to me is the type of thing when I think about why I love this date, that only seems to happen on this date, where the band just feels that pre-New Year's joy. What you guys were talking about, RJ and Megan, the sense of like the night before a wedding when you've reunited with all of your friends and you have this great night that happens leading up to the night that everyone came there for. And it's just that mixture of spontaneous energy and also expectation of what's to come next, but almost removing expectation because it's December 30th. And if you polled Americans as a whole of what they prefer, 12/29 or 12/30, they would say December 31st, New Year's Eve. I don't know what why are you so concerned about the nights before? But like Phish has kind of carved out this space where those two nights tend to have such a special vibe to them.
Yeah, I want to get to the segment where we get into highlights because I got to tell you, my research, I completely ignored 2.0, which there's not a lot of it for 2.0, and 99% of 3.0, other than the 2019 show. I have notes for every 1.0 1230 show and things to say, but I don't want to jump ahead of your program, Brian. But yeah, it all starts with that 89 show, Fluff's Travels, the first ever Fluff's Travels that we know of. It's 89, so who knows? It could have snuck in there somewhere. And then and then it just kind of the tradition is really formed. And it's a great tradition. And other bands do it. Grateful Dead did it for many years. And it's interesting to me also that, the Dead stopped doing it after Bill Graham passed, right as Phish took up the mantle, if you will, or simply just got big enough to be able to do it on a consistent basis on ever increasing venues. So it's an interesting sort of unintended handoff on the timeline there.
Let's get into the statistics and the big moments and the highlights. Before we do that, we do need to take a very quick break to tell you a bit once again about our presenting sponsors. Mr. RJB, would you tell us a bit about Shift Genuine Cannabis?
I would love to. Shift Genuine Cannabis, our amazing presenting sponsor. They are based in Colorado. You might have heard us say that once before. They sell flower, pre-rolls, cartridges, concentrates. Go to shiftcannabis.com to learn more. They helped make HFPod possible this year. They brought us back. We didn't know we were coming back until we met Shift. So we're grateful to be back. Thanks, Shift.
Thank you, Shift.
Thank you, Shift. We're very grateful to be back. And I will tell you about Section 119, which is our other presenting sponsor, of which I don't know if you know, but I'm wearing a sweatshirt of. And this sweatshirt, it's like wearing a hug. It's amazing. It's like a bear hug. It's like your best friend on 12:30 coming up to you and being like, tonight's going to be great, and giving you a huge hug. That's what this sweatshirt feels like. Right now, Section 119 is running their biggest promo ever. You can score up to 30% off for the holidays. Visit section119.com to check them out. Find great gifts for your wife, your husband, your brother, your dad, your kids, your podcasting co-host, your favorite podcasting hosts, whoever it may be, your favorite audience members, whatever it may be. Just buy stuff from Section 119, spread the wealth, 30% off. Section119.com. Mr. J.M. Hart, could you tell us about our third sponsor?
I think I could do that. I want to tell everybody about our good friends at Sunset Lake CBD. Sunset Lake CBD is a farmer-owned business that ships CBD products directly from their farm to your door. Did I get that right? Did I point? There's the camera.
Their farm to your door. You got it.
For years, Sunset Lake was a Vermont dairy farm producing milk for Ben & Jerry's ice cream. And in 2018, they diversified and started growing hemp for CBD. With products for everyone, they offer pre-rolls, hemp cigars, hemp flour, as well as tinctures, gummies, CBD coffee crafted to help with stress, aches, and pains. I have right here their salve that I put it on my hands for my arthritis. The Sunset Lake CBD saves you money by shipping high-quality CBD products directly from their farm to your door. Visit sunsetlakecbd.com. Use promo code HFPod for 20% off your purchase. That's sunsetlakecbd.com. Promo code HFPod.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's do this. Let's talk. We've talked about the vibe. We've talked about what makes a 12:30 show special without really diving into the nuts and bolts of this. So let's spend the rest of this show talking about essential 12:30 shows, essential 12:30 sets, essential 12:30 jams, and we're going to finish this off by everyone sharing their favorite 12:30 show. I just did a quick count on Phish.net. I think I got it right. There have been 21 December 30th shows played through the band's history. 22 if you want to count that Chalk Dust Torture from Letterman performance, where Letterman asks the band, does anyone need a ride back to Burlington?
He could get
21
them there quick. You know, that was
He
back
could.
when Letterman was racking up the speeding tickets on the way out of work.
21 shows, and I'd venture to say, like, this has one of the highest batting averages of shows in Phish history. I mean, there's got to be at least 16 to 18 of these that are veritable classics. Jonathan, I know that you have isolated all 12:30 shows to the 1.0 era. Start us off. What are some of the essential 12:30 shows that we need to listen to and talk about?
Well, I'm going to kind of speed round this a little bit. So I'm going to just name a show, give you a highlight, and ask if anybody has comments on some of these as we go through. And I expect we'll get more and more comments as we go up through the years. I think 92, though, because we don't want to be remiss, 92 is honestly, it's like everything you need and expect from a 1992 Phish show. They play it fast, they play it well, they play, interesting combinations. You get a big ball jam in there, Bowie, Timber, Bowie, all of that stuff. A little Paul and Silas. Great show. Oh, I Walk the Line at the after Reba before the whistling. Totally cool, totally random. They'd played it a few times before that, but cool show. Thoughts?
Timbers played for the first time since 11/28/1990. It's a 257 show gap, which should show you how much the band was playing at that era. I think the only thing I'll say about it is, like, yeah, I mean, isn't that crazy? It's, almost 300 shows in 2 years. The only thing I'll say, like, this show, I went back and listened to this as well. It kind of gives you, to your point, everything you expect from 92 Phish, but it also starts to hint at that 12:30 vibe, where you get a bust out, you get jams. And this is a band that's about to get a grand piano and is about to do a full tour of the United States and is about to have 1993 happen, which is a huge year in Phish history.
Oh, did you say 93?
I did.
So 12/30/93, my big highlight for this show is definitely the Mike song. You mentioned it earlier. It is, I mean, it's huge. It hits hard. Gets kind of melodic and just it really kind of busts out of its shell in a great way. It is it's an outstanding version. Really good show. I just want to point out that they play Purple Rain on this show, and that becomes important soon. And really only to me. Nobody will care. And you guys have comments on this, grand piano, etc. We're in Cumberland County Civic Center for you Portland Mainers out there. Thoughts?
I love this show. It's so beautifully played. There's like an excellent flow to it. It's so fun to hear how different they sound when they're not like taking songs really deep like they do now. They're just playing so fast, but it's really precise. I love these shows. They have so many Gamehenge songs in them. It's just like unbelievable. Can you imagine hearing like Colonel Forbin's Mockingbird, Punch You, McGrupp? I mean, it's just like all in one show. It's so fun. Also, obviously the Mike's monster sound. It's really sophisticated. I think each band member sounds like really tuned in. I was listening to it and like isolating each one of them, and they all sound really great. Also, that piano in McGrupp is incredible. It's so pretty, incredibly gorgeous, and it has this perfect segue into Weekapog, which like races along to these perfect peaks. And then there's a gorgeous slave. Paige is killing it, and Trey just takes it home beautifully. I love this show.
It's a good one. I think that back to the mics, I think this show does something that a lot of the New Year's runs do, which is that it kind of hints at what's to come in the next year.
Yes.
Particularly this Mike's becomes, that much more of a powerhouse in 94. They don't quite go to simple in this Mike's, but when they get to that second jam and you hear the riff, you could hear it happening, but it just doesn't, which is great because I prefer it not that way. I'll talk about my feelings on simple later. Should we move up?
I
Go,
just have
Brian.
two things. Well,
Go.
RJ, do you have anything you want to say about this show? Because I just have two quick points.
No, I just the addition of the Grand in '93, which started the tour or started the year up in the Northeast and ended this year here. It's just beautiful, really nice.
One of the things I'll say about this show, I remember reading about this show in the Farmer's Almanac, and it reads like an early Phish show. And it was like one of those shows that without ever hearing about it, people will criticize like reading shows on paper, reading set lists on paper. I get a lot, and I got a lot early on in my Phish listening career about just like reading what they played at a show and being like, I have to get that tape. And this was one of those shows. It's apparently really cold outside. Everybody gets in. It's one of the biggest venues that the band has played at that point in time. The mics, as you spoke about, Jonathan, it's like a great Exhibit A, Exhibit B of 93 jamming compared to the Marat Gin in terms of where the band is going to go. But Slave to the Traffic Light had not been played on the East Coast since, I believe, 1990 to this point in time. It had been busted out that summer, August 6th, 93 at the Cincinnati Zoo Amphitheater, whatever that was. And if you listen to the tapes, you can hear, after Hold Your Head Up, the front row start to chant Slave, just Slave, Slave, Slave. And the band starts to play it. It's the first time they play it in like 200 shows. Amazing, amazing moment.
Really awesome. I want to just amend what I said. They started this year on the 3rd of February in Portland. And then this was also in Portland. So I said Northeast, but I meant Portland. And then they go to Worcester.
It's a good wraparound in a sense.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. That's all.
So that the next year, which was, in case you're wondering, 1994, it's the first Madison Square Garden show. I'm sure everybody's going to have some thoughts on this one, so I will keep mine short. Obviously, the Wilson's a big deal. It's on a live one. I love that they play I'm Blue, I'm Lonesome in the middle of the second set, but it comes right after this big tweezer that gets out. And this is the it's a quintessential late 94 jam. Page really shines on this one. They take this thing out, it settles down. There's hints where it could have gone into Nitrous, or it could have gone to Big Black Fairy Creatures from Mars at one point, but it doesn't. And they hang with this jam, and it's outstanding. And the reason I mentioned Purple Rain before is because here we are 1 year later in Madison Square freaking Garden, and they play Purple Rain in the second set, and it's crazy. Like, why? What? Who? I mean, there's Phish fans who love Phish and are serious Phish fans who hate it when they play that song because, I don't know why. But I think it's a ballsy move. I think it's outstanding. And as you mentioned, they also played Letterman that afternoon. So that's pretty cool too. Who wants to go next? Come on. You guys all have thoughts on this. Meg, why don't you carry the torch here?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't spend as much time on this show. I mean, I think it's a good show. I think that it does show how they're kind of willing to do anything anywhere. I think also like thinking about where they're going next year, and when they come in 95 and open with Prince Caspian, which is just like, I don't know. It's just ballsy. it's just like, who would do that but Phish? Like, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think that tweezer is definitely worth a listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, this show tends to strike me as it's a historically important show. It's the first show at MSG. To me, my favorite part of this show is the Wilson, because you hear throughout 94 hints of the Wilson chant coming out. And we talked on HFPod Live back in October about 10/27/94 from Charlottesville that opens with Wilson and has like scattered shots of people yelling Wilson, but it hadn't fully caught on, as I understand, until this show. And there's YouTube footage of Trey, like arena rock god in MSG, like with his fist up in the air as everyone is yelling Wilson at him. And it's just like, it's kind of that moment where the band has leveled up in a way. And I agree with you. The tweezer kind of compartmentalizes all these crazy sounds of the previous couple months. To me, 94's big show is going to be 12/29. Obviously, this is like a historical next step for them.
Oh, I didn't mean to imply that this was in any way better than the Bowie, but it's big and it's important. And the Bowie is a little more unique. This one is, it's a lot of what they've been doing. And again, presages what would come after the break when they came back in the summer.
Totally
And,
agree with that.
RJ, do you have anything on this one?
No, you guys got it. Tweezer.
1995. 1995 is kind of, I mean, it's easily outshone by the next night, right? And we'll talk about 12/31/95 later. And I love Meg's point about the the Caspian being,
Yeah.
kind of a ballsy move, but they do roll into 2001 after that. A lot of great stuff in this one, I think, but I'm really here for the Harry Hood early in the second set. It is everything you want and expect a Hood from that time frame to be, right?
Yeah, one of my favorite things that they were doing with Harry Hood in December 95 was they were peaking it and then they were kind of going quiet again. It's almost like the Alive One version from fall 94. And they were just seeing how much can we stretch this 3-chord jam and how can we quiet it down and build the tension all over again. And they do it in such a way in this version that it sounds like they've almost walked off stage and just pressed play on a pre-recorded jam and just let it play out to the audience. It's so, I don't think Trey misses a single note, and every single beat of it just builds and builds and builds perfectly. This is one of my running jams that if I'm having like a terrible run and I need something to pick me up, I put this on. It's 15 minutes. You're going to take me about 2 miles. Everything's going to be okay. And I know like by the end of it, I'm going to be feeling really, really good and I can go another couple.
I think it's the Hood there's a great Bowie also and a great Hood. I think this show is slightly overrated though, in the grand scheme of things. I think it's like, I don't know why. I remember getting the tapes. I mean, I think probably because like compared to the next night, as you said, Jonathan, it's like, like it's kind of all about the Hood, which is great. It's great. It's a magnificent version.
I like the madness of that ice Kung ice, but I'd like to clarify, if it wasn't clear before, I think it's rightfully overshadowed by 12/31. I mean, it's not better. It's a good show. That's all.
I think I would argue to RJ's point that like everything we've talked about thus far, like the magic of 12/30, it really starts in that 92, the 93 show, especially from Portland. And it picks up again in the late 90s and it becomes almost like a thing that follows the band on this date. 95, you got that great 12/29 set in Worcester. 96 is predated by 2 solid shows in Philadelphia, and both Boston shows are so. I would propose, just where we're at right now, that we jump to the GOAT of the GOAT date, which is
that show sucks. This Reba in 1996, on the other hand, is so fucking good. I'm so good. I had to drop the F-bomb right here on live internet television.
The 12/30 show is kind of like
soars. It's absolutely stunning. And the tweezer, which doesn't get super deep, it is kind of like an early 90s tweezer, beautifully segs into Life Boy. And if you won't have that, that's fine. I'll keep it.
I'm contemplating just hijacking this whole show and having Jonathan go song by song through 12/30/96 because that would be a very interesting. It's definitely a good show. Don't get me wrong. Your moments are great. I agree.
No, I really, that's all I had on it. You're not entirely wrong. I just, the notion that we're going to spend the rest of the night talking about 12/30/97 is really what worries me.
But Jonathan, there's also 3.0, and I know you don't want to go there, but there are some epic shows in 3.0.
I got a meeting, so we can no.
Well, let's talk 12/30/97. I have thoughts, lots of thoughts. I will just reduce it to one single thought that this is my single favorite Phish show of all time and contains everything I would want in a Phish show in one show. I may have other thoughts, but I'm gonna hold myself at that. Megan, I know that you share a love for this show. Tell
Yeah,
us about 12/30/97.
I was there. So I was hanging out with some very naughty people and having a lot of fun. I think I was 20 years old at this point, and just an amazing weekend in New York City. I don't know if it was the weekend, but a few days in New York City. And we were up to no good and went into this show super pumped and had been there the night before. And the scope of this show is just so incredible. I mean, have a second set that's over 2 hours long. It's incredible. The bust out opener, Sneakin' Sally. I think this taste is so gorgeous. Probably one of my favorite versions of that song they've ever played. The piano driven Water in the Sky, and then this just relentless driving, shredding Stash and Chalk Dust. I mean, I think that this whole first set is so incredibly strong. I think A Day in the Life is a perfect first set closer. So fun. It's so special as a
Saved
first
yourself
set
there.
closer.
I was really coming for you for a second. Yeah.
No, I mean that's so good. You like just absolute rip the place up with Stash and Chalk Dust, and then you kind of land in this like incredible cover of Day in the Life. Love it. And I know I got a lot of crap from you guys, but this is my favorite AC/DC bag ever. I think it's just so groovy. It's so texturally rich. It's funky and then just super delicate. And this point in my life, I was like newly in love and was at this show with my new boyfriend and old friends. And I remember this jam just like radiating through me. And it's just was one of my like most favorite moments dancing to Phish. And that says a lot because I have a lot of those moments, but that's just a special version. And then into, I mean, McGrupp. I mean, I want more McGrupp in my 4.0 shows now. Like listening to all these 1.0 shows, like that needs to happen more often. Please make that happen for us, boys. The harpoo is hilarious. You know, I mean, and this encore is just next level. I think that all this, I was listening to over and over again that segue from Black Eyed Katie into Sneakin' Sally. The MoMA Dance is like one of my favorite songs, and hearing it kind of in this form, like before it became the MoMA Dance, and hearing how they go back into Sneakin' Sally, you can hear them on the recording, just like yeah, like just they're so feeling it. It's just, I think what you were saying, RJ, earlier, that this show is just pure magic. Like this is just not a night where they went in like we're gonna play a great show. Like it just happened that way. It was just so good, so good.
I want to clarify for anybody who's watching that we did say some of us may have on a text thread said that we prefer the 914.99 ACDC bag, but it is a close call and there is
Okay,
no
few.
shame, and we do not mean to ding you at all. I say I certainly would not take you down at all for liking this one more because it is outstanding. I don't know how anybody had the energy to survive the relatively languid Black Eye Katie at that point in the night. It's after midnight, and you've had this incredible dance fest all night long. Uh, I would have been knocked out, but the
I
transition.
don't think I was sober, but
Yeah, well, I think that would probably help. Yeah. The transition into Sneaking Sally, though, is, as you say, just outstanding. It's really beautiful. It's a good show. And again, I think that the way they play that encore kind of presages what we're going to get in the Island tour.
And that's a really good point because CJ on Twitter at Ingest mentioned when RJ posted that he was listening to the AC/DC bag, and CJ replied that this is the jam where 1997 turns into 1998, and it's so group driven. It's so kind of focused. Like if you compare this to the Hampton version that happened just a month and a half earlier, which sounds so influenced by Trey's love for My Bloody Valentine, this is where you start to get those kind of blues and grays that come into the music, and like that just subtle Brian Eno approach, and like it sounds like it's moving them towards the ambient jam. And there's a moment at 14:12. I texted you all, it was about 13:30. I was wrong. I went back and checked my notes. 14:12 on the live Phish recording, where the jam is just building and they're all like one instrument, and Fishman hits the snare drum and they all just change on a dime. And the jam just like whatever tempo they're playing at, they all change at the same time. I didn't get that moment fully until I saw my first show at MSG, and I understood that the floor moves because you're like 6 stories above the ground. And it almost feels like the band at that point was just trying to get the floor to move and just seeing, can we shift with the crowd and can we keep the floor moving? I don't know. It's total locked in jamming from Phish.
Yeah, the diversity of the jam is just pretty, even for 97, which had a lot of amazing stuff. It's pretty notable. And I think I agree with what CJ said. This is like the beginning of the next phase of their improvisation. Whereas most of the 97 jams, there were, so many amazing jams, but they all were like, they kind of followed a specific course. And this one is it's just so off the map. It really amazing. Great show, like start to finish. Incredible.
I also cry every time Trey and Tom hit the Hannibal Lecter moment in 500 Miles. It just sounds like, 25 years of friendship peaking at MSG in that moment, singing a ridiculous cover of that song. It's so, I don't know. It's the combination of their joking side and their jamming side in such a good way. Should we move on though? Because
can I recap 98 in
please,
like 3 words? Down with disease. All right, there, we've done it.
I'm just going to counter with 3 additional words: the squirming coil.
Yeah, that's good too.
It's a great second set. It's a very moody second set.
Yeah, I mean, really getting an interesting territory. Are we going two words for the next show's lightning round?
No, not. Okay. We can't for the next one.
Okay.
But but it is a great like 5-song set. Also interesting. That's the first and only grind until Hampton 09, but
right,
kind of random. And
so 99. How do you set the table for Big Cypress? I don't know. I guess they did it.
This is it. I mean, this is Big Cypress. We've all driven hundreds or thousands or, I don't know, 50 miles, depending if you're from Miami or wherever, it's probably more than that from Miami. But it's an afternoon set, opens the whole thing up, and it's a blast. And then, there's a whole podcast people can listen to if they really want to get the details on this. I don't know who made it or if it's any good, but it's out there. But I just want to talk about the tweezer is into taste is real nice. Jabu Hood in the second set, that's so great, so fun. We had the best time, but really I have to come back around to Mike's song again. This Mike song was so massive. I felt like the entire field was going to lift off and fly into space. The smoke machines were on overdrive. It was just crazy, noisy, and weird. My wife and daughter had gone to bed during the set break, so they're all back in the tent. So I'm by myself and just leaping about, having the greatest time. And as Mike's song kind of grinds to an end, I'm like, please play Hydrogen, please, because that's my thing. And then they play Simple, and I was crestfallen. Like, fucking hate Simple at that moment. And then they played Hydrogen. And it was the best. It was absolutely just amazing. Just a good opener for the weekend. I mean, the sound check was real good the day before. But the weather was beautiful. The music was awesome. And the band, great night. Great night.
I'm always amazed looking at this set list because you have Ghost, Tweezer, Wilson, Harry Hood, Chalk Dust, Antelope, Mike's Groove. like I have to imagine walking away from the field when you're like in a Phish run, and maybe this is just me, but I have a really hard time like predicting, oh, this is of course on the table for tomorrow night because I'm just kind of in the run. I feel like I would walk away from this show being like, how are they going to play a 7-hour set tomorrow? Like they're playing so many big songs right out the gates that the idea that they're going to come out tomorrow and like play, they have a huge task ahead of them. It's amazing that they had the, you know, confidence at this point about playing the 1239 or 1231.99 show, that they could come out and play so many heavy hitters and know that we'll be okay across the midnight to sunrise set.
I felt
I
the
want-
same way. I was like, this is fearless. You know, Tweezer and Tweezer reprise, like they're not even saving the reprise. Like they're like, we're just going to dump tonight. You know, it's like, I think that's just why they can do these things, because they're not ever worried about this stuff. It's just like, it's so amazing.
And it's a
They
3-set
play-
show.
It's a 3-set show. Like
There's
they're
no
about to play
reservation.
all
Like it's
night.
crazy.
It's
Yeah, well,
just-
it's a festival, man. We throw down.
Yeah.
You really do. I love that tweezer. It's super delicate. It's like a patient jam parts of it. It's just like really, it's so good. I like that one a lot.
It slides beautifully into that taste too. RJ, do you want to
Shrugs.
cap
What are
off
your
this
thoughts on
1.0
one?
talk and let us go forward?
Yeah, I mean, this show is like it's somewhat overlooked again by the night after, but it shouldn't be.
Totally.
You know, that's
Yeah.
all. That's all. Brian, we're close to the time that we're supposed to end. We don't have to end ever, but should we? How
Let's
should
go
we do
all
that?
night.
We've blown it.
Now?
Let's just keep going.
Till the morning.
We'll
Just
keep
like
going
Phish.
here.
We'll be fearless too.
I think
Sounds
that
great.
I think that what we should do is we should discuss I think everyone should pick a 12:30 show that begins from 2.0 onward and just give us a breakdown of why this is your and let's call it the more than likely the 3.0 12:30 love here. And we know that over the last 6 years, I want to say, the band has come out and played just an incredible 12:30. It's been almost like Money in the Bank. You know that they're going to play a crazy show on 12:30. Megan, I'm going to start with you. What is your 12:30 pick? It could be 2.0, 3.0 that we should all listen to.
Well, you might have an idea, but it's 12:30, 2019. This show is so special, so good. It was the last time I saw Phish before the COVID, everything happened. But the anniversary to their first time playing at Madison Square Garden 25 years later, perfectly crafted and played first set, opening with Wilson, just like they did 25 years ago. This like historic nod, this final hurrah into this awesome 46 days. Curtis Lowe bust out, a tremendous blaze on that's often overlooked because of this epic tweezer in the second set, but that blaze on is really, really beautiful. Karina, I mean, it was so quiet during that song. I was on the floor and I'm short, so I can't see anything when I'm on the floor, which is kind of a cool experience because you're just in the lights. Like I call it being in like the soup, you know, you're just in the lights, in the bodies. You're not trying to look at anything. You're just there. And that Karina was like, you could hear a pin drop and they sound so beautiful. Paige sounds incredible. His voice, his singing sounds amazing. It was just really magical. And I think the song selection in the show is like perfect. It's just such a good set list. The mics into Contact Weekapog. I remember my face was like hurt from smiling. And then to end on More, it's such a triumphant set closer. It felt like we'd already seen like a full awesome show at the end of the first set. And we were just like, what could be next? And when they opened with that tweezer, I mean, this is probably my favorite tweezer. I'm sure there's other ones that people like more, and I think I probably have a major attendance bias on this one for sure. But that beginning of that tweezer is so crisp and so authoritative. It's just like they're playing so precisely and it's so hard. And I just think it's perfect, the beginning of that tweezer. I was on the floor with my friend and we were just like totally just getting down. People were just like, oh my God, like what is happening? It was so good, that jam. And it was like a whole journey. I felt like I experienced like a lifetime in that. I played a little bit for my 3rd grade class yesterday to kind of see what they thought at about like the 18-minute mark, 19 minute mark. And a few of my favorites were, one of them felt like it reminded them of all the good memories they have. And another one said it felt like being inside a marshmallow. So I feel like those are pretty good ways to describe what that jam gets to. It's just, it's incredible. It's so beautiful. And I just think that tweezer to me was just a super special moment, and I'll never forget it. And the Ruby Waves is great. I mean, it's like a 4-song set, right? They're going like in and out of Ruby Waves, and it's so great. And The Slave is beautiful. And then an absolutely perfect encore with Rock and Roll. That show was so fun. I listen to that show all the time.
What are you feeding your students at snack time? Do you guys still do snack time in 3rd grade? I don't.
Corrupting young minds every day.
I was at that show. It's freaking awesome. That tweezer is amazing. I agree with everything you said, except for being short on the floor, because I don't do either of those things really. So.
Somehow you'll have to experience from my point of view sometime on the floor. It's interesting.
Bring me a chair.
All right, so 12/30/19 is off the table, an amazing show. And as Jackson Richards noted, it was up on the screen here, we should at least mention that the last 5 12/30s have been seriously tremendous shows, and he's absolutely right.
Totally agree.
I think every one of them could be talked about here as long as we talked about the 1.0 ones. Jonathan, what is your pick for the 12/30 show that you want to highlight?
Well, I'm kind of on the spot here because really I would probably have gone with 99 if I had had the whole canon, or I would have gone with 19 if it hadn't just been picked. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of gently highlight the year before because I was there and it's pretty great. I was pretty ecstatic to get another Alumni Blues, Jimmy Page Alumni Blues, which, in 2018, I should not be saying another. Like, you're not supposed to be getting that. That's supposed to be gone. But here we are. They were playing it, and it was pretty great to see. And then Mike's Glide 2, first one of those since 95. Come on. This is not a complaint. I'm just, it's kind of astounding. The first Bliss, which Megan mentioned earlier, right? So I'm pointing this way, but she's that way. It's confusing. Cameras, they're weird. It's just a really just cool, fun show. Big Weekapaw sandwich in that first set too. The second set has this cool Amber Mercury opener. I really like that, but the Everything's Right plasma light sequence is kind of out of this world. I'm hoping you guys can back me up on that because I didn't listen to that in advance of this because there's just too many 12/30 shows, and some of them are good. No, but I do remember the Split Open and Melt being insane.
Yeah, I was there too. I agree. The show's
Pushes out.
awesome.
It gets
I love
weird,
everything about this
and
show.
it's so good. And so that's my vote. And according to Phish.net, they changed the lyrics to Alumni Blues to reference National Bacon Day, and maybe that's why 12/30 shows are so good because bacon. No, I don't know. It's bad theory, but there you go.
I mean, I remember this show just in the sense that we talked about this on Tuesday. They played such a great 12/29, and there was, I wouldn't say like a worry, but it was how do they top that going into 12/30, and to come out and do Alumni mics, and then they go into Glide 2, and I was not at the show, but it was one of those fun experiences when a really good Phish show is happening and you're on Twitter and it's like the internet explodes.
Right.
That happened, and then they play Weekapog, goes into Cross-Eyed, Bliss, internet explodes again. Later in the set, Tube goes back into Weekapog, goes back into Tube. But to me, this is one of those shows that gets like a full respin every so often from me because I love the entirety of it. You get a 4-song encore as well, but Everything's Right. There's something about the tone that Trey reaches, and he just hits this phrase on his guitar that the band is completely on board with, and he doesn't miss a note. mean, there's one like kind of offset note that works, but then he catches himself and he just builds to this peak that, to everyone I've talked to who was at the show, felt like the entirety of MSG was going to lift off. It's like you were talking about with that Mike song from '99. Like, it's just a collective moment where the music meets the audience, meets the moment in such a special way. RJ, what do you got?
Yeah.
What's your 12:30 show?
Well, I just want to say about the 18 show, that was I think it's just sort of a masterpiece of a show. The whole thing just worked so well, and I was there and I loved it. And during Waiting in the Velvet Sea, my wife told these people behind us to shut up while they were, because they were talking during Velvet Sea. And it was just
Good for
that was a
her.
proud moment for me.
So good.
I will say, like, the 2013 and 2015 versions both have set to opener chalk dust, which is my favorite thing to happen at a show, in addition to hearing Tweezer. But a second set chalk dust opener that goes out there is really great. So I think those are both worth revisiting. I think I'm gonna go to 2016, because the Tweezer, Sparks, Ghost, Light, that's like an hour of amazing music. And it was just, I don't know, the first Sparks since 2011, and it just fit perfectly in there. And I think that was a really pretty awesome show.
First Carolina. You didn't chalk that. First Carolina since
I didn't.
3103.
It's true.
Cool show.
true.
Very cool show, that one.
Really cool. Really great show. And really great bathtub gin in the first set also. So 12:30, 2016.
Amazing show. Has one of my favorite ghosts I've ever seen, and is in my top 3 or 4 favorite shows I've ever seen. I had great seats and I loved everything about that night. I'm gonna go with 2017 just to finish off the run of shows that we've seen in recent history. We were talking about this before we went live, the joy of having kids but wanting to go to a Phish show. I had a ticket offered. I was in Maryland at the time, and I was trying to get up to MSG to go to this show, and it just unfortunately didn't work out. And I kept talking myself into it. I texted a few people. I was like, it won't be as good as last year's 12:30, right? And everyone's just like, yeah, you'll be fine. Last year's was such a special show. And then they come out and they go, Mike's Hydrogen, HFPod, Tweezer. And like, I don't know, we're in like contention for 12/11/99 and 11/22/97 in terms of how you open a Phish show. Like, I don't know how much better you can open a Phish show than Mike's Groove, a standard Mike's Groove, and then a 20-minute Tweezer. It's just amazing. It's so much energy. Then to go into Ass Handed just fit perfectly with where the band was in the mid 2010s, and it felt like a special nod back to the Baker's Dozen. Kill Devil Falls, a great bathtub gin. Probably the worst played Brother ever. I don't think that they find the groove at all. It kind of reminds you of the Sacramento version from this year, but it's endearing. It's fun. It's a bust out. It's the first one in 200 shows. And then more to close out the set. And then they come out for the second set and they play a 28-minute Down with Disease that goes into such a crazy jam segment around like 14, 15 minutes. Go into Steam that has a full-on ambient jam attached to the end of it. Light, which has a cool jam. Farmhouse, Run Like an Antelope. And then one of the best ways that you could close out any Phish show, Sleeping Monkey in a Tweezer reprise. We'd had great moments in 12/28 and 12/29. The 12/30 kind of took that 2017 run and elevated it. And they advertised this on the poster, Phish's great return to MSG, tongue in cheek, because they just played 13 shows there over the summer. But like, it felt like in this show, everything that they felt about that venue was being celebrated across 2 sets.
Yeah, I was kind of pissed because I went to the 29th and then I went home because kids and life and things. And yeah, then they played Mike's Hydrogen, HFPod, Tweezer, and God, you can't see them all.
Can't see
That's
them
the way
all.
it is.
I want to give a very special shout out, a very quick shout out to 12/30/2012, my first 12/30 show ever. I had the best seats I've ever had at a Phish show, aside from Chula Vista. I was just off page side, just like kind of up a little bit. I could see the lights go out on the crowd, but I felt like I was looking into Page's keyboard rig, and you could see the band chatting between songs, which is such a cool experience about sitting in that segment or in that section. But the disease that opens the second set, Jonathan talked about this earlier, that kind of foreshadows where the band is going jamming wise over the next couple of years. And the Carini that comes midway through the second set, it's like still one of the most evil jams I've ever heard the band play. And I remember just looking around at people with like their hands on their heads, just like, what is happening right now? Just an amazing, amazing moment. And just that 12:30 vibe. So anything else that we need to say about this glorious date of the year?
What do you
Thank
think? Have we
Trevor.
convinced you? Have we convinced you, RJ, Jonathan?
Yeah. I think it's a fair. I think it's fair. I mean, I think 12/29/94 being having the best Phish jam of all time is, clouds my judgment a little bit, but I do think there's some monsters on 12:30, and I think it's appropriate. But I do also I just want to say thank you to everyone for watching and listening, which is which has nothing to do with your question, Megan.
But it's a
That's
good
okay.
point,
Thank you,
especially anybody
everybody.
who's stuck with us this long. 'cause,
Exactly.
we ran a little late.
Exactly.
That's
We ran
my
a little
fault.
over.
I derailed.
It's
No,
all
you
right.
were great. You were our
Mm-mm.
12:30 guide. I thought it was great.
Your march through 1.0 12:30s was an excellent vet move. I really appreciate it. Just like, let's stonewall all the time that we can spend talking about 3.0, and we're only going to talk about these 5 years. I
It's
love
a
it.
proper filibuster.
It was very good. We will be back on Tuesday, December 14th. Another good date in Phish history. There's a good show that was played on 12/14. It was released officially back in 2001. We will not be talking about that show, though. We will not be talking about 12/31s. We're going to put a quick pause on our march through the New Year's Eve runs. We're going to be interviewing Brian Harding, who has put together the 1.0 film book, which is going to be a really cool conversation. For all those out there who have heard about this, you've probably seen pictures on Instagram. He's been collecting physical photos that people took throughout 1.0 of fans, of shows, of the vibe of the 1.0 90s scene, and he's put them all into a coffee table book. So we're going to see some of those pictures, talk with him a bit about the concept behind the book, as well as talk to him about his favorite Phish shows. He's going to be our fifth vote on whether or not 12:30 is better than 12:29, because we're undecided here in this group. That should be really fun. And then Thursday we'll be back again next week, and that's when we'll talk through 12/31. So thank you everyone out there for hanging with us, for listening to us. Before we go, Megan, do you want to tell us a bit about Shift again?
Absolutely. We just want to remind you that HFPod on Tour is proudly presented by Shift Genuine Cannabis, based and sold in Colorado. Shift sells flower, pre-rolls, cartridges, and concentrates. Please visit shiftcannabis.com and you can learn a lot more. Thank you, Shift.
Thank you, Shift. And I guess I will tell you all once again about section 119, of which I am wearing the hoodie. They are running their biggest promo ever. You can score up to 30% off for the holidays. T-shirts, sweatshirts, blazers, swim trunks, shorts. There's so much that you can buy.
Masks.
Section 119.
They still have the
masks. Great masks.
Stuff for your dog. We've got it all.
Stuff for your dog. It's just an amazing site full of Phish, Grateful Dead related merchandise. Find cool gifts for your wife, your brother, your husband, your dad, anyone, your grandfather who saw the Grateful Dead and probably wants to wear a Grateful Dead hoodie. I don't know, keep warm in the winter, Visit section119.com, 30% off, and fill out the post-purchase survey and let them know that HFPod sent you. That's a huge help for us and a huge help for them. And with that, I will bid you all adieu for the weekend. Looking forward to hearing what 12/31 shows and jams you're all listening to. And we'll be back here on Tuesday. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Grandfather. I'm
Thanks.
not that old, man. I mean, thank you.
Thank you.